Welcome back. You see that I put a couple of items into my first project's estimates. So I now have 3 different estimates underneath that project. So this section of the video we're going to talk about creating an estimate node. We're going to open up the estimate node. We're going to talk about the basics of using the UPB title tree. We're going to add some cost items to the estimate, and I'm going to show you about using the search engine. So you can see here we have a civil estimate, we've got a mechanical estimate. What we're going to do is we're going to make the electrical estimate. So again, to create a node, you do a left click on the node, you do a right click on the node, and we're going to add, we're going to go estimate, add estimate. And this is going to be the electrical. Okay, so now we have the electrical estimate. Now, on the older versions of the software, you won't see this, the money and the number of records. You'll find that information if you click on the estimate header node. You'll see that the first estimate had this many that value, and if you scroll over, you can see how many records are in the estimate. We've added that to the newest version. Okay, so to open up the electrical estimate, all we have to do is do a left click on it, double click on it, and it will open up the estimate. On the left side of the form is the title tree, and you'll see that the unit price book that we're using right now is the second quarter. I changed it in the intermission there, so I went from the third quarter to the second quarter. Okay, now book 1 happens to be the facilities construction composite data. That's the 2.5 inch thick unit price book that many of you use. Book 2 is actually the combination of 4 books. It has the civil book, it has the mechanical book, the electrical, and the plumbing book. So actually you're going to find more items in book 2 than you're going to find in book 1. So the pricing is generally pretty close, but it may be a little bit different. So you may be wanting to use book 2. So I just opened up all of the division titles in book 2 by clicking on the node next to that book 2. So I clicked on this node. Okay, this is the electrical estimate. So we're going to go down here and we're going to look at the electrical items, and we're going to be in division 2-26. And let's just go and do some battery equipment. Okay, I'm just picking this as at random. Okay, so you see I have a division node, then I have a section node, then I have a group node, and then when I finally reach this white page node, that's an indicator that the next time when I click on this, you'll actually display cost items in the green grid. The green grid is the cost item grid. The title that we just clicked on will be here in this column, and then each item is going to be here in this item description. Okay, so I'm really not caring what item. This is just showing you how to do it. So I'm not looking at specific items. I'm just grabbing something. Now you can double click this item, or you can drag and drop it, or you could type the item codes in if you like. So I'm going to drag and drop it, and that item you see down here at the bottom, that item on that row is a nickel ion nickel ferrite battery, deep cycle, 100 amp hour, 12 volt, 10 cells battery unit. So it's probably like about a good sized car battery. Okay, but the price is $1,100, so it's got to be a lot more than that. So we're going to pick up 12 of those. Okay, it's probably for like a battery backup. Okay, so I have put an item into the estimate, and let's talk about the next thing. We have to select the factors, and typically we'll use factor AA, which is typically normal working hours. Now you won't see this 0.079 on your version because that's something that we added later. Okay, but AA is for normal working hours, AB is for other than normal working hours, AC is for non-pre-priced items. So I'm going to use factor AA. Okay, now the account code is K for repair and maintenance, L is for minor new construction, and M is for other engineering. Okay, so you can keep track of the various different parts of the estimate with K, L, and M. You can get different subtotals that way. Okay, so I am going to go to the remarks column. The remarks column is very important. You need to say where this item came from. So let's say this came from the power generation plant. Okay, now we have a location column, a user defined 1 column, and a user defined 2. Right now there's nothing in these columns, but we can say that this is, the location is going to be gen plant. Okay, and maybe call this the first level. And user 2 I'm just going to leave blank for now. Now what this is we can get subtotals based on different locations of the estimate. So I can print the estimate out and group everything by the generator plant or by the first level of the project. You can create these cost code or these descriptions, and you can then get your subtotals any way you like. Each item or each row in the estimate has a user identification. When you logged in, your user identification is marked on each record in the estimate. Now if you change somebody else's estimate row, your name will then be tagged on that row. So whoever touched that record and edited it last, their user ID will be on that row. Okay, if there's any error messages, they will appear here. So if you didn't put a quantity in, or if there's a mistake in the item code, the error message will appear over in the far right column. Okay, now this node brings up just the green grid. Now what I'm going to try to do is find an item quickly that will bring up some items with some surcharge groups. Okay, I'm not having any luck right now. So if I go to the existing conditions, let's go to structure moving. Okay, so structure moving, I have a different node. I don't have that white page node. Now I have the white page inside a folder if you look at that node carefully. If I click on this node, what it's going to do is it's going to display the items that are associated with that node in the green grid. But it also has some items that are related to it. So for building relocation, if I want to, I'm going to move. Did you see what I did? I just grabbed this row divider and I moved it down. Building relocation, 1 day move, average move is 10,476. Okay, so now we have a modifier for 22 to 42 feet wide. We have to add 15%. So this is unit of measure here is percent. If I increase this, you're going to see that the unit of measure is percent. Up here, if I increase that, you'll see what the unit of measure is. So what I'm going to do is I have a 1 day move. Average move is, and I'm going to move 1 building. Okay, the factor is AA still. The account code is still K. Alright, now you'll see that I don't have labor, material, and equipment, all of the cost here is in the overhead and profit for that item. Okay, because it's a percentage based item. Okay, so I'm also going to use the surcharge item. I used the green item, now I'm going to use the orange surcharge modifier group, and now since it's percentage based, it's going to say, okay, the parent item, it says 15% of what? Well, this 15% is applied to whatever item is selected from above. So I select that, and I'm going to have one total there also. Okay, so when you look at this node, this says when you click on this node, you're going to find the item you selected in the green grid. If you click on this node, this is the reverse lookup, and it is going to be this node, and it's going to have every item that is capable of using that surcharge. So if you click that node, in this case we're going to get the same results because it's just a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, but you have to keep in mind what these two different nodes mean. Now the thing is sometimes a modifier item is not based on a percentage. Sometimes it's just a unit of measure like square feet or each, and that is not tied to the green item grid, but it's just a helpful item to have alongside of it. It's kind of like if you're buying a refrigerator, it would be the ice maker. Do you want the ice maker? So you pull in the ice maker from the orange grid. Okay, so now we have 3 items in the estimate, and we want to go find some things, but you saw I was having trouble before trying to find things, so I'm going to use the search engine. So if I click up here on the search icon, there's a little binocular right up here underneath the file in the menu, and that brings up the search form. Okay, and I am going to search for hinges, like door hinges. So I can type in door hinges, or I could type in door and on the next row say hinges. Now this would find hinges door or door hinges, and then I have the conjunctive word and or. Okay, now I'm going to search all of the divisions of the unit price book. It's going to be a little bit slower, but you're going to see it's not too, doesn't take too long. Okay, so I found 212 items that have the words door hinges. Okay, so somewhere in here you're going to see that it says door hinges. Okay, it includes doors and then hinges. Okay, so 212 items is a lot to look through. So you really might want to go back and just say you want brass. Maybe let's say we just want brass instead of aluminum. Okay, let's see what that does to us. Okay, so I cut it down to 49. So now we're just looking at brass door hinges. So I look at this item, that's what I want. I'm going to just double click it, and I need 1.5 pairs per door, so I'm going to do 3 doors, so that's 4.5 pairs. 3 doors, that would be, yeah, okay. Alright, again, I should come over here and do the remarks of where that cost item came from. It's always better, just as you're going along, to say what you're doing, where it came from, so later on you can justify your estimate. Well, where was that? Well, what drawing did it come off of? What, maybe it was in the generator plant. Maybe it was in some room. Maybe this was in room 433. Okay. Typically, the column the generator plant should be, typical items like large groups of items, or and maybe first level, second level, third level. So these should be similar, but you can create these codes any way that you like. So I hope that gives you a good idea, or a beginning idea, of how the estimate form works. The the last thing I'd like to show you is printing. If you go here to print, it's going to ask you about repricing. Okay, repricing, you don't have to do it, especially if something this small and it just got started, but typically before we print something we like to reprice the estimate. So now repricing is it goes to the unit price book and it looks up the cost items over again. Now we have the report selection. So typically we're going to want to print the statistics report, and we're going to print the item cost detail, which means every row from the estimate will appear on the printout. So we're going to group it by division, sort by cost code within the division. We're going to include the remarks, and we're going to use the portrait format. Now typically we want to leave all 4 of these bottom boxes on for a government to print out. You click on the printer icon, you'll see that here's the detail report. Okay, this is a crystal report printout. If you want to print it, commit it to paper, you can click on the icon here. If you want to determine what printer it goes to, you can click on the printer setup. Okay. The other report that was just printed out is called the Estimate Statistics Report, and this is where you're going to get your totals. So all the different subtotals. So you see it's got the KLM. You see 100% of it was in K. You see all of it was pre-priced. We did not have any non-pre-priced items. Everything was done in normal working hours. You see it gives us the generator plant was almost 52% of the project. Everything else was unclassified, and that was 48%. Then we had user first level, and everything else was unclassified. And if we go to page 2, you see that we ran out of room at the bottom of the page here, so there's just probably going to be one row. I guess there's a few more. So alright, then it prints it out by user ID and whether the item was green or not green, and the different divisions. So we picked an item from division 1-08, and we picked items from 202 existing conditions and 226 electrical. So that gives you an idea how to go about printing your estimate, and it's a fast look at doing an estimate. So there's a lot more to discuss, and we'll do that in some more videos.